This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
You are watching Frankly Speaking Sports, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. And boy, oh boy, do we have an incredible show for you tonight. We're going to talk a little college football championship. The Georgia Bulldogs, 41 years later, they finally win another title. We'll talk about that. Number two, we're going to have some special guests with us tonight. Mike Petraglia, who covers the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a professional football writer for the Professional Football Writers Association. He'll be joining us live to break down the Raiders and the Bengals this coming Saturday. Then we'll be followed by TGI Sports host Keith Engle, who covers the New England Patriots and is also the football analyst for Northeast Streaming Sports. So boy, oh boy, do we got a fun, full show for you today. So stay tuned with us, folks. We'll be testing some new software out today. So for those of you folks watching, you'll see the backgrounds. You may see me fade in and out a little bit, but we have an unbelievable show for you tonight. So we are looking forward to that. We want to thank everybody who is watching on Northeast Streaming Sports, on Roku TV, everybody that's listening to us in the mornings on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, the best sports radio station in the Triad area. Listen to Tobacco Road SportsRadio.com. All our listeners on YouTube, all you folks that are listening right now, please do me a favor. When you get a chance, you can go over to our YouTube channel and just hit the subscribe button. It's free, but it allows you access to all our previous interviews, all our previous shows. As we go on our third year, 1 month from today, we'll be starting our third year of Frankly Speaking Sports. Very, very hard to believe it, but my goodness gracious, what a great run it's been. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start off now as I move around with these new background features. Love to get some feedback on how you folks love these new features we have. But last night, we're doing our show. It's halftime. It's 9-6. It looks like a field goal type defensive game. But the Georgia Bulldogs prevailed in the second half as they outscored Alabama 27-9 in the second half, 20-9 in the fourth quarter. And what can you say about Stetson Bennett, folks? Stetson Bennett, he goes ahead. You know, it's not even the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year. It's JT Daniels. You even heard people asking, should JT Daniels play? Should he play? What does Stetson do yesterday? Stetson leads them to their first title, 41 years, 17 of 26, 224 yards, 2 big touchdown passes in that fourth quarter. And, of course, the pick six by that Georgia defense. And it just was a matter, folks, of that game, just the Georgia defense just ending up being too much for Bryce Young and the Alabama Crimson Tide. This was a great Georgia team. You knew about their defense at the beginning of the year. The big question was always, what is going to happen with that offense? Is it going to be able to click on cylinders so that they can score enough points to win these games? And the number one defense in college football prevailed yesterday by the score of 33-8 2019. Want to congratulate Kirby Smart, Stetson Bennett. What a great show. Just incredible by that young man. And now the college football season is over. We're going to be going into very quickly here the NFL playoffs start back up. And we're going to have in about 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and start out with Mike Petraglia, like I said, professional football writer, and also host of At the Jungle Roar Pod. So we are going to have an unbelievable show. If you like playoff football, if you want to hear these breakdowns, two of the best guys in Keith Engle and Mike Petraglia to go ahead and do that. And like I said, Mike will be on in about 10, probably about 10 minutes from now. But before we go ahead and we get back into the NFL and the Bengals, I do want to let people know a late update. First of all, before we get to that, Joe Judge fired, just came down, fired as head coach of the New York Giants. Actually came down a little earlier this afternoon. We reported it immediately on Frankly Speaking Sports. So now Geitelman, the GM, did retire. Now they get rid of Joe Judge. Just was a matter of the owner not feeling that this team was moving in the right direction. And it was a matter of time, folks. I think everybody thought this was going to happen on Monday. It didn't happen. Everybody was surprised, and it did go ahead and came to fruition today as the Giants fired Joe Judge. As far as the Carolina Panthers, they did not fire Matt Rule. Matt Rule will remain as head coach of the Carolina Panthers, but he did fire his offensive line coach, his defensive line coach, and the special teams coach today. So in order to win some games, you're going to have to make some moves, and Matt Rule and Scott Fitterer did make some moves today. Hopefully that will help the Carolina Panthers in the week to come. Now, some other news before we get to the NFL playoffs and our special guest. Major League Baseball has announced that they will go ahead and have a meeting this Thursday. The owners will offer an agreement. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't understand why they have to play games with each other, because this is just another situation where the owners are probably going to offer something. The players are going to obviously, not accept it. They're going to want more, and it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. What they both need to do is get their butts to the bargaining table, figure this thing out, say we're not leaving until this is done so baseball can start on time. Remember, folks, it's 10 days after the Super Bowl. Pitchers and catchers are supposed to report for spring training. So, let's hope baseball uses their head here. They gave us a very sour taste 2 years ago when COVID first started, and rather than thinking of what was best for the fans and the people of the United States of America and so on, they just did not get it, and they gave themselves a very, very, very bad look. And it wasn't a good look, and it will continue to be a bad look for baseball. It is very, very important. I don't think baseball realizes how much they are putting at risk here if they don't get this thing solved before spring training. Okay, they're having enough issues right now with attendance, people showing up to these games. The last thing they need is to give these folks another reason not to show up to the game. It's just silly, stupid, ignorant, and whatever other word you want to use. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the players' fault. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's the owner's fault. Right now, it's everyone's fault until it's solved. Okay, what they need to do, nobody cares who's at fault. Nobody cares who wins. Nobody cares who loses as far as the fan perspective. All they care about is that when baseball is supposed to be played, that the games are being played. And they have to understand that and accept that. Right now, baseball probably, and I can say in my lifetime, I'm 55 years old, and I could probably go ahead and say that baseball has never been under such crappy leadership as it is currently under right now. And I am very safe. I am very confident in making those statements. It's sad, but we're going to need to get these guys together. They are going to do something Thursday, whether it means anything or it's just one of these tactics that the owners are using. Again, who knows? But let's hope that, these two sides come to their senses and does what's best for the game of baseball. What we're going to do, folks, we're going to take a quick station break. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and have professional football writer Mike Petraglia on with us to discuss the matchup this weekend between the Raiders and the Bengals. Should be a great, great game. Got a lot of good questions that we'll have for him. So we're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and take this station break. And when we come back, we'll have Mike with us. We'll be back right after this.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm your host, Larry Frank. Thank you so very, very much for being with us this evening. And, we have two games coming up Saturday. The first one being the Raiders and the Bengals. And it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to go ahead. And I'm not sure what happened here with our there we go. Yeah, there we go. Mike Petraglia, host of At the Jungle Raw Pod, and he's also a professional football writer at CNLS Media Bengals. Let's welcome in Mike. Mike, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing very well, Larry. How are you?
Mike, I'm doing great. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much. No, it's been short notice. You got a lot going on this week. I know you're not accustomed to having the Bengals in the playoffs, and I don't mean that any disgrace by saying that. But let me ask you this, Mike. It's been a while. Cincinnati's been waiting. Thank goodness they had the Bearcats. I mean, the Reds haven't been playing playoff baseball. The Bengals the last couple of years. Talk about what it's like, this turnaround that's happened in Cincinnati, and what is the current buzz. Not only did they win the AFC South, but they're hosting a home game as well. What's the buzz like around the city of Cincinnati?
That's a great point. A lot of the buzz has to do with Joe Burrow and the belief that this is going to be different. It's different this time, okay? Joe Burrow is really the key to everything in terms of the Bengal fans' belief that their 8-game postseason losing streak will come to an end this Saturday against a Raider team that played 70 minutes of football, laid it out all out on the field on Sunday night that everybody saw against the Chargers. And you wonder just how much they have left in the tank, do the Raiders, coming into Cincinnati. It'll be cold. It won't be snowing. It won't be bitterly cold like Buffalo will be a couple hours later for the Patriots. But it's going to be a hostile environment for the Raiders to walk into. And this week, it was Zach Taylor telling us on his Zoom call, actually on Monday, we need the jungle to be the jungle. And what he means by that is the Bengals do, a real home field advantage. And at times this year, the Bengals have had that. At other times, not so much. And I think the Bengals are expecting the crowd to be a huge factor in terms of pumping up the volume, pumping up the intensity. And I think this is going to feel a little bit different than those Andy Dalton playoff teams.
Talk about Joey Burrows, because I'll tell you what, Mike, I think it's hard for anyone that loves the game of football not to be in love with this guy. I mean, just how his career has just started at that last year of LSU, and then, unfortunate injury last year. are you surprised? And I know you're not surprised about what he's capable of doing, but are you surprised how quickly he got back on the field and was able to continue to play at the same level he was playing before he got hurt? And I'm not just talking about the physical part of it, Mike. I'm talking about the mental part of it as well.
I guess mentally and in terms of his intellectually, I'm not surprised. He's one of the brightest football players that you'll ever see on the football field. People make the comparison to Tom Brady. I see Peyton Manning or Joe Montana for that matter. The way he breaks down the defense pre-snap is something to behold. So to watch him really manipulate defenses pre-snap and then go ahead and throw the ball to the open receiver and almost always get it right in terms of his reads really speaks to how much work he puts in intellectually in the film room, in meetings, in practice. Talk to everybody associated with the offense, including head coach Zach Taylor. They say he is one of the hardest workers in terms of that. Physically, I am a little bit surprised that he's made it back this quickly. Yes, he's young. He's only 25 years of age. But about midway through the season, and he has acknowledged this on several occasions, he started moving around like he had full confidence in that left knee again, to the point where he had it before the knee injury in Washington in 2020. And once he got that confidence back, he was a different quarterback. He could move around. He could really escape pressure in the pocket, especially when the offensive line was not very good early in the year. Let's be frank, to implement the theme of your show. Let's be frank here. The offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals was not good in the first half, in the first 8 or 9 games or so. They turned a corner, and now Isaiah Prince is spelling Riley Reef at right tackle. He's going to have a big task of trying to hold off Max Crosby on Saturday afternoon. And Yannick Ngakoue on the other side is going to go after Jonah Williams. Those are two matchups that the Bengals have to really come out even or a little bit above if they expect Joe Burrow to have a productive game on Saturday afternoon.
And speaking of two other guys on offense that have really impressed me a lot this year, because when you look at the running game of the Bengals, they're averaging 102 yards, so you don't think much. But when you look at Joe Mixon, he has 1,200 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns this year. But what I love about that guy is he's what I call a dual back, like Christian McCaffrey here that they have in Carolina.
Right.
He catches the ball. The offense works around him. He can catch the ball out of the backfield if they need a quick pass and get yards. And the other guy that just has amazed me all season, which, everybody, expected him to have a great season, Jamar Chase, with 81 receptions, 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. Talk about, it's one thing to get your quarterback 2 years ago, but talk about these other guys on offense that complement Joey so well.
They got the draft right, Larry, the last couple of years, and I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, there was so much debate last offseason when the 2020 campaign came to an end. You got to improve the offensive line. What did that mean? Take the number 1 tackle in the draft, Penei Sewell out of Oregon. Well, the Bengals were like, not so fast. We want to have an offense with weapons that is next to unstoppable. We want to build the next greatest show on turf that the Rams had with Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, and the cadre of receivers that they had. Torrey Holt, for instance. Obviously, that's kind of the late 1990s, early 2000s model. Then the 2000s model of Peyton Manning and the Colts. That's what the Bengals are shooting for because they have the quarterback. They wanted to make sure that he had a multitude of weapons. That's why they went and got Jamar Chase. If you go back and watch that Kansas City game a couple of weeks ago and watch a couple of the routes that Jamar Chase ran, he ran dig routes in the middle of zone coverage. It was Joe Burrow finding him in those holes, in those spaces, getting him the ball, and then Jamar Chase joysticking it, if you will, making these crazy moves, stop, go, and then outracing the Kansas City secondary, not once, but twice. That great reception to start the second half that really got the Bengals going. That's what Jamar Chase brings. Joe Mixon had 125 yards rushing on 30 carries against the Raiders in late November in Vegas. That's what they're going to probably have to do, at least early on against Vegas, is really set the tone physically at the offensive line for Mixon to do his thing.
Now, I was just going to, and you beautiful segue into the next question, Mike. How does your O-line, do you think, because I agree with you, in order for Joey to be successful, you got to establish at least some type of running game so they don't think you're going to be passing all day, even though we know Joey is capable of throwing 400 or 500 yards in this game versus the Raiders. How does your O-line match up against the Raiders' defensive line? Because that's going to be the main thing for Joey, making sure he has enough time and enough protection to be able to make those plays to those receivers.
So with Darius Pylon out with a patellar tear last Sunday night, that helps the cause for the Bengals because that's one less middle of the defensive line impact that the Raiders have that they're going to have to worry about. But still, they have a lot of bodies that they can throw. And the Bengals had to wear down the Raiders in that game on November 21st out at Allegiant Stadium. They had to wear them down, and eventually they did. I think they think that coming into this game, given what the Raiders went through on Sunday night, playing 70 minutes of football, short week, I think they believe they can wear them down a little bit earlier in the game, and it won't take as long. That's their hope anyway. But they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to really be able to run the ball when they want to run the ball, stay ahead of the sticks, don't take stupid penalties. And the other thing I would say, Larry, that's really important in this game for the passing game is the play action. The Bengals have the ability to pass to Mixon, to pass to Chris Evans. Chris Evans, who had a touchdown in that meaningless loss to Cleveland on Sunday, is a terrific running back receiving the ball out of the backfield. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah. Now, what scares you the most about the Raiders, Mike?
Well, Darren Waller getting loose and making plays that Travis Kelce can make. He was bottled up pretty well by the Bengals a couple of weeks ago, but he is a weapon that caught over 115 yards worth of receptions back in November against the Bengals. Hunter Renfrow is a slot receiver that concerns me, and Josh Jacobs is running a lot better since the Bengals last saw him in November. So those three weapons concern me. But look, Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue, who, by the way, forced a strip sack of Joe Burrow on the first series back in November. The Raiders had first and goal at the Bengal 9-yard line and only got a field goal. The two defensive edges are the guys that worry me the most if I'm the Bengals.
Yeah. Now, Derek Carr, and anyone that watches Derek Carr knows Derek Carr is the key to beating Derek Carr is force him to make mistakes. I mean, you mentioned Josh Jacobs, who's been running the ball pretty well for Oakland, especially last game, had the big 10-yard run before that field goal that kept the Steelers alive and made the Raiders go to the playoffs. What kind of pressure do you think this front seven of the Bengals can get on the offensive line of the Raiders?
Well, I wrote about that today in my keys to the victory or keys to the game for the Bengals and the Raiders. Trey Hendrickson has had a career year, and a lot of people question the Bengals for signing him to the money that they did, but 14 and a half sacks later, nobody's questioning that move. Trey Hendrickson, who has played in the playoffs for the Saints, comes over to the Bengals and is a monster on the edge. He's coming off the COVID list, and they wanted him to rest up anyway in the season finale. He got the rest. He could have a big game. He and Sam Hubbard each had a sack and a quarterback hit in that game in November when the Bengals pulled away 32-13. I think the Bengals defense matches up pretty well against this Raiders offensive line. And don't forget about Larry Ogunjobi and DJ Reader. Those two have been forces all year long in the middle of the Bengals defensive front. And I think the Bengals secondary is one of the deepest without a lot of star names in football. Yes, they've given up a lot of pass yardage, but don't judge any secondary, the way I look at playoff football, by the statistics. Judge them by the personnel. The Bengals have the personnel to match up against Darren Waller with Trey Flowers. He is a specialty cornerback who came in midway through the season, and he has been assigned the best tight ends in football. Mark Andrews of the Ravens, George Kittle of the 49ers. Bengals beat the Ravens twice, lost to the 49ers. And the Bengals have ability to match up against the other team's best receivers. So that's why I think the Bengals defense matches up well in this game with the Raiders.
Talk about head coach Zach Taylor. How important has he been for this turnaround in Cincinnati?
Great question. Wrote about him last week. He got my vote as NFL Coach of the Year simply because the Bengals have had to scale the greatest mountain of all of the other coaches under consideration. Mike Vrabel, Matt LaFleur of Green Bay, and certainly Cliff Kingsbury gets a lot of consideration, but that team started 10-0 or 9-0 and didn't even win their division. Then there's Bill Belichick in New England with a rookie quarterback. But I think the ability of Zach Taylor to turn around the culture from a 6-25-1 record over his first two seasons to a division winner in the AFC North, and to convince everybody in the locker room to get on the same page in the middle of a pandemic, pretty amazing stuff to watch firsthand. And I was very impressed with Zach Taylor. Now, he cannot have any brain cramps like he almost did against the Chiefs at the end of the game there, where they almost blew it on 4th down and goal at the 1 in a tie game. You can't afford that in a playoff situation. And that's the one thing, a lot of Bengal fans are a little concerned about. Can Zach Taylor handle the moment on Saturday? I think he can. But again, until he goes and does it, that is something that is still to be determined.
And, it's pretty, not that we talk much about the Raiders, but it's pretty amazing when you really think about the Raiders and everything this team has been through, from the head coach to Henry Ruggs, that they're even in a position to be playing the Bengals during the playoffs.
4-game winning streak. Every game at the end of the year was a playoff game. And the way they played that game Sunday night was pretty remarkable. And, you got to give it to Rich Bisaccia to go for the field goal and knock his division rival out, and, take the chance that, maybe he misses the field goal, ends in a tie, Raiders still get in. But if that gets blocked and goes the other way for a touchdown for the Chargers, the Raiders lose a playoff spot because they decided to go for a 48-yard field goal. That's, maybe taking a chance that he didn't need to take, but to win 4 straight playoff games, starting with that game in Cleveland, yes, he took advantage of a shorthanded Cleveland team on the road. We get that, but he still had to go across the country and win the game. And that is something that the Bengals should be very cautious of, that this Raider team has faced strong odds, tall odds, if you will, for the last month of the season, and they've responded each time. The Bengals just have to make sure that they are ready for whatever the Raiders might throw at them on Saturday.
And I'll tell you one thing, the Bengals' rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, were very happy that he went for that field goal.
Yes, they are.
Because that would have knocked out, just amazing. It would have been an amazing thing to see in the NFL. So let me ask you this. The latest I'm hearing, Mike, is that the weather should not be an issue in Cincinnati. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yes. It should not be a big issue. Let's put it that way. It'll be cold. It'll be about 28, 29 degrees, the forecast says, for 4:30 Eastern time on Saturday afternoon. The wind won't be big. See, it's not so much the cold, but it's two other factors. It's the precipitation, rain or snow or sleet or ice, whatever. That's one factor that offenses hate or quarterbacks hate because of gripping the ball. And the wind is the other. The wind is the number one factor that affects the passing game. You saw that early on with the Bills and Jets last Sunday in Buffalo, and you certainly saw it the first time the Bills and Patriots played in Buffalo when the Patriots ran it 3 times and won. They may have to do that again this Sunday when it's going to be 2 below zero at kickoff on Saturday night. But those are the two factors that are really impact a game. And you're not going to have either of those Saturday afternoon in Cincinnati. It's going to be partly cloudy, 29 degrees, not a lot of wind. And by the time the game gets to its conclusion at about 8 o'clock, it'll be about 20 degrees.
So, Mike, how do you see this game playing out?
I see the Raiders sticking with the Bengals through about halftime and then pretty much running out of gas. I see the Bengals pulling away for a 27-19 win.
Yeah, and I definitely think the Bengals. I do have to ask you a question before I let you leave. I know You've been in New England 27 years before coming to Ohio. Patriots getting back to the playoffs as well. That's the second game that evening. How do you see that Bills-Patriots game?
I think the Patriots are going to try to run the ball again, right? They're going to try to run it right down their throat because I don't think the conditions are going to be ideal for passing the ball. I think the Patriots, have some very serious injury concerns. They got beat up a little bit down in Miami. Isaiah Wynn, we'll have to wait and see if he is fully healthy. I think they need him healthy. I think the Bills are going to, and Sean McDermott is going to throw something different at the Patriots running attack this time around. They have to. There's no way you can allow the Patriots to win the game running the ball when everybody knew they were going to run the ball. And that's what I'm curious to see on Saturday night. I see the Bills winning the rubber match, probably putting up about 21 points. I don't see the Patriots scoring more than 13. 21-13 Bills.
And last question, and I'm going to let you run, Mike. You know this Bengals team better than anyone. And I know you want to take one game at a time because you have to when it comes to playoffs, because you win, you're in, you lose, you're out. But do the Bengals have enough depth on this team to make a run at the Super Bowl?
Absolutely. If they don't beat themselves, they absolutely have enough depth. I talked earlier about their depth in the secondary. You need that against teams that are going to be able to pass the ball, i.e. the Kansas City Chiefs. You need to have good run-stopping linebackers. They have it in Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. They have the ability to tackle well. That's one of the biggest improvements in the Bengals defense from last year to this season, their ability to tackle, wrap up, give up the completion or give up, a 3 to 4 yard run for positive yardage, but don't allow explosive plays. And they've been, for the most part, when Nick Chubb's not involved, they've been able to wrap up and finish the play defensively. And offensively, I think we've all seen what the Bengals are able to do when Jamar Chase gets one-on-one coverage. Don't forget about T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Bengals have loads of weapons if they stay healthy and they keep their quarterback upright.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Mike, I want to thank you so very, very much for taking time out of your schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports this evening, and best of luck to the Bengals.
Larry, thank you.
All right. Stay safe, my friend.
You bet. You too.
All right. That was Mike Petraglia. He works for CLNS Media Bengals. And what great information there. I mean, great information from Mike, and he's right. This is a Bengals team that has the ability. I agree with him. When you look at some of these teams in the AFC and the NFC, yes, Green Bay in the NFC, but I don't think there's a clear-cut team right now in the AFC that you can say will automatically win it. These games are going to be tight. I do expect the Bengals to go ahead and beat the Raiders. But, at the end of the day, this is an unbelievable Bengals team, and I'm looking forward to them, and I think they're going to definitely win this upcoming weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to have the host of TGI Sports Talk. He covers the New England Patriots, and he also is a football analyst for Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We'll be back after this with Keith Engle.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
All right, welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. Sorry about that, folks. Having a little technical difficulty, but we are back. We are ready to go. Let's go ahead and try to get our background back up here. Not sure what happened there. We'll try to get that back up right now. There we go. And ladies and gentlemen, the next game we're going to talk about is the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. And this will be the third time this year this team is actually meeting. So it should be one heck of a game. Let's go ahead now and bring in our good buddy as I bring him up here. All right. Good old technology. Let's go ahead and bring in Keith Engle, host of TGI Sports Talk, and he covers the New England Patriots for Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Keith, how you doing today, buddy?
Good evening, Larry. How are you?
I'm doing well, buddy. Doing well. I'm getting excited for NFL playoffs coming up, as I know you are definitely. Keith, let me ask you this before anything. How does it feel to be in the month of January and associate the word playoffs again with the New England Patriots?
Feels like all is right with the world again. We had a year off, and now we're back to where we're used to being. And you get spoiled after, last year was very funny not watching my team for the first time in about 20 years in the playoffs. Well, 1 or 2 years out, but we got to feel how everybody else felt, and it's better to be here than there. I can tell you that right now. I'm excited about this team. As bad as they've played recently, I'm still excited about what can be here the next month.
When you think about this game coming up in Orchard Park, New York, we don't have to talk about what the conditions are going to be like. It's Buffalo. We know what it's going to be like. But when you look at these conditions, which right now we know it's going to be cold, very cold. We know there might be some snow showers that night. But as the weather gets more inclement, don't you think that favors New England over Buffalo?
Well, we saw, 3 weeks ago that was the case. And the worse the weather was that night, the better they played. They took the ball out of Mac Jones' hands. I mean, they did the right thing. And Buffalo is a lot more one-dimensional than the Patriots. And I think adverse conditions absolutely will favor the Patriots on Saturday night. Even though Buffalo is accustomed to that weather, if the wind is blowing and it's cold, Josh Allen, who's had his struggles, has not played great except for a few games this second half of the season. I think the Patriots will hopefully be able to take advantage of that weather.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Then when you look at this, but the one thing about the Patriots, and you and I have talked about this a couple of times already this year, is I really feel in this game more than any other game, except maybe 3 weeks ago, this is a game where that running tantrum with Harris and Stevenson has to show up because the conditions might not be well. And they showed, the amazing thing about this game 3 weeks ago is every single person and their mother and father and sister and uncle knew the Patriots were going to run the football, and they still were able to run that football.
Well, the Patriots have run the ball very well. Not as well. They ran it all right Sunday. Damian Harris has been banged up a little bit, but Stevenson has come on like gangbusters this second half. He's been a tremendous weapon for the Patriots. And if Harris is healthy and the offensive line is healthy, I heard Mike talking about it earlier. They're a little banged up still on the offensive line. If they're able to run the football and not make Mac Jones have to win this game, then I like the Patriots' chances. But, Larry, they got to cut down on the stupid penalties. Again, too many penalties on this last Sunday, and very slow starts to games. They've got to get away from that. They can't fall behind this game 14-0 and expect to have a chance to win, I don't think.
How important is it for this Patriots defense? We talk about them getting the offensive side of the running game going. How important is it to make Josh Allen one-dimensional and for this defensive side of the football for the Patriots to get pressure on Allen to force some turnovers and hopefully capitalize them, turn them into points.
Yeah, definitely. They need to put pressure, and they might need to put a spy on him. I think because you can't have him running like crazy. I think he did it again Sunday against the Jets. The Jets played, a game football, or they were game in this game. To be redundant, they played very well, but Josh Allen beat him all by himself with both his legs, and he struggled with his arm a bit. The Jets, who are one of the worst defensive teams in football, contained him for the most part, but then he would beat him with their legs with some huge runs. And that's what you have to stay away from. And the Patriots had trouble with that, again, 3 weeks ago. Forget the game in the weather, the game at home a couple of weeks ago, Josh Allen, they did not contain, especially on third down. He was able to run the ball. He was able to throw the ball, and you got to get pressure and you got to get off the field. If they didn't get off the field one time 3 weeks ago in that game.
Is it safe to say, Keith, in the Patriots as well as anyone, that if New England does prevail in this game, it's going to be because of their defensive play, and the lower the score is, it might benefit the Patriots?
Yeah, definitely. They don't want to get in a shootout here, right? Rookie quarterback, as well as Mac Jones has played most of this year. He's hit a bit of a rookie wall, and he struggled except for the game against the Jaguars a couple of weeks ago. But he's resilient too, Larry. I mean, they get behind. They still fight back. He makes mistakes early, and he overcomes them. But they don't want to get in a shootout with Josh Allen. And, he's got some weapons at wide receiver. As much as they struggle in the running game, he's got multiple weapons. You saw a couple of weeks ago, they kind of took Diggs out of the game. He was all right, but I'm trying to think of the kid's name now. It's escaping me. The the kid who had 7 catches all year long. What the heck was his name? I'll find it here. Isaiah McKenzie. He finds him for 11 catches, 11 receptions he had against the Patriots the last time out, after they kind of shut down Diggs and Cole Beasley was out of the game. So there's still some weapons. We talk about the Bills being one-dimensional, but they find ways to get it done. And actually, they ran the ball pretty well. Singletary did pretty well against the Jets on Sunday.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now, let me ask you, you watched Bill Belichick for a long time. He's been with almost 20 years, I think?
More than 20. 2000 was his first year.
Okay, so 21 years.
Yep.
Is this the best coaching job that he's done?
Yeah, I would put this up there with this year, up with the first Super Bowl in 2001, and the year they didn't make the playoffs. Actually, they went 11-5 with Matt Castle playing quarterback. Tom Brady played 8 snaps in 2008. I would rank those 3 years up with Bill Belichick's best, and this one's right up with those two. To integrate all these new parts they've had with a rookie quarterback, and some of the injuries that they, everybody has injuries, but some of the injuries that they've had. And this is we talked about the defense. The front 7 is really good. There's some weaknesses in that secondary, and he's been able to cover them up, with some schemes and whatnot. But I think this is, one of Bill Belichick's best jobs. And if they can get a run on a run here the next month, it might be his best coaching job ever, and maybe one of the best coaching jobs. And
you and I both know it doesn't matter what your record was during the season. This is playoff time now. Anybody on any given day in the playoffs, they're here for a reason. They're here because they won enough games to be part of this. And, like you said,
you just got to
right? Yeah. Now, let me ask you this on both sides of this, from the Bills' perspective and the Patriots' perspective. What should be the Bills' main concern with the Patriots, and what should be the Patriots' main concern with the Bills?
The Bills should be concerned most with that Patriot running game. They got to control if they can keep the Patriots in 3rd and longs and Mac Jones in 3rd and longs, he'll struggle more than he would if it's obviously 3rd and short, which anybody would, but a rookie quarterback much, much more. So the Bills want to keep the Patriots from gaining a lot of yards first down, and keep him in 3rd and longs. The Patriots, they got to keep Josh Allen from beating him with his feet. That's with his legs. That's my opinion, because you watch so many times where it looks like this guy is done. He's got 3rd and 15 and he's got pressure and he just escapes and he's able to get 15, 16, 20 yards or more and be able to, get out of trouble. So they've got to keep him in the pocket and keep him from beating him with his legs. That's what I see the Patriots needing to do.
Now, being Mac Jones, being a rookie, and you're Coach Belichick, you're going into one of the most hostile environments in the NFL with that Bills Mafia. How do you coach Mac Jones? I mean, obviously you don't got to give him any ammunition to go out and win. It's playoff football. But how do you keep him tamed so that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes due to the hostile crowd and his surroundings?
Well, again, keep it simple for him. Don't get too complicated, especially early in the game. Don't let him make mistakes early and fall behind. Keep him, within himself. And remember, Mac Jones, one of the reasons I think Mac Jones is as matured as quickly as he has is where he played football. He played in the SEC where he went into plenty of hostile environments. It's not the NFL, I get that, and the game's a lot faster and whatnot, but the fans are no less intimidating on the road in some of those SEC stops that he had to play in Georgia and LSU and stops like that. So I think I don't think the crowd is going to get to him. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for Mac Jones, but it's a matter of him staying within himself and the Patriots keeping him in a position to be successful and not asking him to do things he can't do at this point in his career.
If I'm the Buffalo Bills and there's one guy on the Patriots, now we know about Mac Jones, we know about the running game, but if there's there's always that one guy somehow for the Patriots that shows up in a big game that really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot throughout the season. Who could that one guy be now in this playoffs?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's been so many guys that have contributed at different times. I mean, definitely Kendrick Bourne is a guy that I would say could really step up and beat this team. He's had some big moments during the year, but he's not a name that you hear a lot. He's a guy that I would say if I was a Bills fan, I'd be worried about Kendrick Bourne both running the football and catching the football because they like to run that jet sweep with him. And if they catch the Bills sleeping, it could turn into a big play.
Will Jacoby Myers be a big force in this game?
No, definitely. He's great, across the middle, catching those tough balls in traffic. I mean, it'd be nice to see him get in the end zone once in a while. He finally got his first career touchdown this year, but he makes some big plays and some big catches for first down. So he'll be a big factor in keeping those chains moving on Saturday night for sure.
Who are they going to have on Stephon Diggs? One of the best. I'm a big Stephon Diggs, 103 receptions, 1,225 yards, 10 touchdowns. Who's going to be the guy that keys up on Stephon?
My guess would be that they're going to probably mix it up, but you'll see. I think you'll see a lot of J.C. Jackson on Stephon Diggs myself, with a little help. Because again, I don't think you want Stephon Diggs beating you, and they just got to be careful in taking him out of the game. They don't allow, as I said, a guy like McKenzie to come away with 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I think they'll do okay. J.C. Jackson has played really well in spots. They go pretty deep in the secondary. They aren't great. Devin McCourty's still a great leader out there. But I think you'll see it mixed up a little bit with Jackson and maybe double them up with Duggar now and again too. So
now these teams, like we talked about earlier, played each other twice during the regular season. As always, they were 1-1 against each other.
Yep.
Keith, do you think there's really anything neither of these teams have seen from the other team, or is this just a game that comes down to a matter of 100% execution?
Mostly the latter, 100% execution, but I'm guessing that Belichick and McDaniel have something cooked up somewhere if they need it. They're always holding something back, and they're always working on something new, another little wrinkle. And I'm sure McDermott's doing the same thing for Buffalo. But at the end of the day, We know what they're going to do. They know what the Patriots are going to do, and it's a matter of executing on both sides of the football. And as always, Larry, controlling that line of scrimmage is going to be huge in this game. And that's what it's going to come down to. Yes, you'll probably see a trick play here and there, maybe by both teams. But at the end, but those plays, while they're great and they can get you back in the game and change momentum, you've got to do what you do best and control the pace of the game and do what you do best. And the Patriots run the ball really well, and I think that's what they're going to want to do. And Buffalo throws the ball really well, and Josh Allen runs it well, and that's what they're going to do. So,
are you comfortable with New England's special teams?
Early in the year, I would have said yes. I thought that Bailey and Falk were the kind of the MVPs of this team early in the year, but they've struggled a bit. Falk has missed some extra points here and there. Bailey, who was really strong early, has struggled with a couple of blocks in the last month and some bad kicks. But I think, as far as coverage goes, I love the Patriots and always have. Their special teams are something that's been underrated, and the whole run that they had the previous run for 20 years, their special teams was very important to that success. And I think it's important to any successful team's ability to win games. And I think it'll play a big part in this game Saturday night. Keep wanting to say Sunday night, but Saturday night.
I know. Remember, there's a Monday night game too this year.
I don't understand that, by the way, not to change the subject, but doesn't that give those teams an unfair disadvantage if they've got to come back and play on shorter rest than everybody else, the team that comes out on Monday night?
You would think, but you would hope that team is going to be playing next Sunday. Imagine if it's Saturday, it's even, just incredible. And you can't predict that because seeding takes care of all that. So
yeah.
I don't understand it. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of it either, especially if I'm one of those teams, but they're trying something new. They're trying more interest, and they added a couple more teams. It's been an exciting year, so we're lucky to have football. I'm not going to complain. Let me ask you this, Keith, in closing. I don't think there's a lot of people giving the Patriots a realistic chance, unless maybe you live in New England area, of course. From what you know from most teams, do you think New England has a realistic chance of winning this game if fundamentally they come in? Of course, we know the mistake-free football and all that. That goes without saying. That's football. Yeah. But do they have enough they've done it throughout the year, but this is the playoffs now. And I know you say Mac Jones is mature to, in time here. What is your honest gut feeling on the outcome of this game?
Well, they do have to, I will say they've got to play mistake-free football. If they have penalties and they have turnovers, they're not going to have a chance to win this game. But I don't think they get a lot of respect being a 6.5-point underdog in this game. And after having, done pretty well against the Bills in Buffalo earlier in the season. And as bad, let's remember something, Larry, as bad as they played, as bad as Mac Jones played for 3 quarters in that last Buffalo game, they were within one stop at the end of the game of getting the ball back with a chance to win that game in the fourth quarter. And again, they couldn't get off the field. So do I think this team's got a realistic chance to win? I do. And it's not just, pie in the sky Patriot fan thinking. I think they've got a legitimate chance to beat this team and get on a roll, because I think these playoffs are wide open for anybody in both conferences this year.
I said that earlier in the show, that this is the one year where you can't go out and say, Tampa Bay is definitely going to win it. Or this team. We've seen these teams, and I honestly believe that the Buccaneers will not repeat. And that's not, I lived down there for a while. It's not the same feeling that team as it was last year. But let me ask you this off the board of this game, and then I'll let you run. Sure. If there is a team in both divisions, obviously Green Bay and Tennessee are the number 1 seeds, but if there is a team that maybe scares you a little bit, that might be going under the radar in these playoffs, who do you think we need to watch out for?
Well, I won't be able to say the Patriots, I guess. So if I had to pick a team besides the Patriots, I would watch the Bengals, to be honest with you. I like that team a lot. I saw Mike's commentary earlier, dead on. That team has got a lot of talent, and they're going to be around a while. And I'll be honest with you, you got to be careful what you wish for. I'm really glad the Patriots aren't playing them in the first round because I think that's a more well-rounded offense than the Buffalo offense.
I agree. With
Mixon.
Jamar Chase and Nick Mixon, unbelievable out there.
Yeah, that's a team that I would watch again, possibly get on a roll and win.
And how about at the NFC? Anybody tickle your fancy over there?
I hate to pack the Packers because I don't want to pick, the favorite, and I can't. Aaron Rodgers just turns.
How do you think the Cowboys will fare?
You know what? It's funny. It's a team you can't predict what'll show up every week, but I think that's almost every team in the NFC this year. Watch, the Eagles could get on a run and win, for crying out loud. Who knows over there?
Well, you got the best running offense playing the best running defense this week, so that'll be a good test.
Yeah, I really do think you're going to get a rematch of Tampa Bay, Green Bay in the finals over there, though. They're the best two teams. They're the best two quarterbacks. I think LaFleur's learned something in his second year coaching. I think he's done a great job. I heard Mike talking earlier about voting for Taylor for Coach of the Year. Not a bad pick, and for my money, with the things that were going on in Green Bay this year, I think LaFleur's done a tremendous job keeping that football team not just their heads above water, but the best record in football, right? So,
yep. And I'm going to make this announcement right now, and you're going to hear it first on Frankly Speaking Sports, and I could be wrong, but this is just my gut honest opinion from people that I'm hearing. This could be Tom Brady's last season playing football.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
he's even hinted. He's even hinted a little bit, Keith. Some of the comments that he didn't make in the past. He's trying to talk about family more and this. There's nothing else for this guy to prove.
No, if he wins, I think he definitely walks away. If he doesn't win, he still might get the fire in his belly to come back. And it depends. You know what? He may decide to retire and people start criticizing him or put somebody. He'll find some slight to just fire him up and come back. I mean, he makes stuff up in his mind sometimes, because he wants that. He wants those slights. That's what keeps the fire burning for this guy.
Yep.
But I think he's getting worn out by some of the nonsense, all the AB stuff, and he stood up for that guy. And I think he's tired of some of that stuff.
All right, my friend, we're running out of time here. I want to thank you very, very much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports as always, and best of luck to your Patriots.
Great being with you. Go Pats.
All right, my friend. That was Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk, and also he covers the New England Patriots for Northeast Streaming Sports. Great show tonight. As we wrap it up here, we want to remind you we have 4 other games going on as well, and we are going to preview all of those tomorrow. Let me see if we can get us back up here again. All right, I guess once again we something going on with the switch and the satellite feed here. Let's see. But on behalf of all of us here on Frankly Speaking Sports, we want to thank you very much for tuning in. Stay tuned now as Sneaky G is going to sneak in here following us immediately. For all of you, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Once again, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Frankly Speaking Sports. Good night.